The newest Star Wars show, Ahsoka, has premiered its first 2 episodes, and in this video, I want to take you through my first reaction/review of these episodes. There's a lot on the line with this show, and how fans react to it could have massive consequences for Star Wars overall. And I think there's a lot to say about these 2 first episodes, good stuff and bad stuff, so buckle up and let's get into it. Also, this video is sponsored by Unity, my graphic novel, which is available for pre-order now on Kickstarter, but we'll talk more about that at the end of the video. So what did I think of the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka? I liked them. I think the best way that I can say it is that these are not the flawless masterpieces that I desired for these first 2 episodes, but I see the vision that Filoni has clearly, and I support it. Let's start with the things that I really liked about the show, then we'll get into some of the stuff that I didn't, and I think you might be surprised at how many things I actually really didn't like in the episode. But first, let's talk about the good stuff. I would say the show is very focused. It obviously has a slower pace, but it's deliberate with every scene, and it's building this really layered story with a character focus. I think the introduction to these new baddies, Baylan and Shin, was built up incredibly. Great opening sequence, and they're just established really well. Ahsoka's given like this mythological entrance. It's very atmospheric. It's building up her connection to the Force and the idea of destiny. Sabine is then established as a rebellious, foolhardy adrenaline junkie with a soft spot. And all of the scenes that we get with these characters are pushing the story forward in a really deliberate way. I would describe Ahsoka as very sure of itself. It is very confident in the story it's telling and how it is telling it. And the bedrock of this is really Dave Filoni's writing and storytelling abilities, which I think are just really on point. And they're allowing the sort of breadth of what this show wants to accomplish to be told through this really focused lens. And this really works for me because Star Wars often has meandering stories. There's a lot of filler in even The Mandalorian, and I feel like Ahsoka is completely different in that regard. It's like laser focused. You might not love everything the show is doing, but I think everybody can admit that it's doing it with purpose. Again, it's really sure of itself, and it has this cool intertwined idea of how to set this story up. Now, another thing that the show does really well, and I think they deserve like huge ups for this, is they are actually pushing the mythos of Star Wars forward. Between the Night Sister backstory and the connections to this new galaxy, I just really think Dave has some cool ideas here that are truly fresh. I'm so intrigued by this new galaxy, by the history of the Night Sisters, and maybe even a deeper connection to the cosmic Force. These are all really interesting ideas. And without getting into spoilers, it appears that the leaks were correct, and this new galaxy that they're all trying to get to is going to be full of new and interesting concepts that, again, are going to push the mythos of Star Wars forward. I mean, we know there's the light side, there's the dark side, there's the living Force, there's the cosmic Force, there's the Jedi, there's the Sith, and there seems to be this idea of balance. But really, under Disney's watch, a lot of these concepts have just felt very floaty. They don't seem to be established to any actual lore, and I have really no idea what was going on in Rise of Skywalker with all the Jedi talking and Rey herself, the dyad. All of these things just feel flimsy and not truly connected to somebody that's like understanding how this all fits together and pushing it forward. And I think with a franchise like Star Wars, it's uniquely difficult to do new things because it relies so heavily on nostalgia, and that legacy feeling of Star Wars has to still be there to bring older fans along. And anytime you push the envelope, anytime you push that mythos, expand on our understanding of light side, dark side, and Force, you risk tarnishing the past and you risk turning off established fans. But you also need that because you can't just do Darth Vader forever. You can't just do Jedi and Sith forever. If Star Wars wants to thrive and survive for decades to come, it needs to find a way to inject newness and freshness into the franchise. But now let's shift gears. Let's talk about the stuff I didn't like, because like I said, this is not a flawless show. It's not the masterpiece I wanted it to be, and I think you might be surprised at just how many things I really didn't like in the show. And maybe you're like, wait a minute, if you didn't like all of that, why'd you like the show? And I'll explain that after we're done talking about all the stuff I didn't like. So first up, I just got to say, I'm not super keen on Sabine and how Sabine was introduced. I think really sets her up for failure. Not just because of the music, which I felt didn't fit in Star Wars, but because of the real sort of rebellious girl bossy scene when Sabine is on that speeder and she's being chased down by those other pilots. I really feel like that hard exterior and that sort of go get 'em girl boss thing was just a little bit too much. And Sabine also has this softer side to her. And I feel like if you just cut that sequence out completely and you go from her not being at the ceremony to her being at her home with the Lothcat and with the memories of Ezra and all of that, I feel like you set that character up way better. And I know there are people that are going to take shots at the show for being very female centric. And yeah, the basic three main characters on the rebellion side are all strong female characters. And we're obviously getting Thrawn, we're getting Ezra, and I think we're getting a lot more Balin and maybe this crazy gold mask character Enoch. There's a lot of like male energy coming to the show, and I'm not on the same page with people that just reject the show because it's focusing on a ton of females. But I will say, I think the show sets itself up to take all of that kind of criticism just by the way they introduce Sabine. Another thing I really don't like about Ahsoka so far is this off-screen drama between Ahsoka and Sabine, all based around this Padawan-master relationship. Now, the second time I watched it, it didn't feel as bad, and I actually think that the Ahsoka we meet in Mando Season 2 likely just split up with Sabine and rejected her as a Padawan, and that is sort of why Ahsoka is in the state that she is in when we see her in The Mandalorian Season 2. And I totally understand wanting to manufacture some tension and have something going on that drives the scenes forward. And it is effective. Like, I will say, it is working so much better than just Sabine and Ahsoka, hey, let's team up and let's go get Ezra. Like, there's something there. I guess for me, it just feels way too crazy to have all of that happen off screen, and it feels very jarring compared to the relationship that I remember between these characters in Rebels. And they don't have a ton of interactions together, but I don't know, like there feels like a whole chapter of this story that's missing, and I don't love that. The next thing I really don't like is Sabine's injury. And look, by the way, I'm okay with Sabine becoming a Jedi, and I think it's cool that the droid was talking about how she's like has the lowest aptitude for the Force that he's ever seen with a Padawan. I think that's fantastic, and she could still kind of train as a Jedi. I'm down with that. But the fact that she gets stabbed through and survives is just not feel good, man. And this is something I've seen a lot of fans have a problem with immediately, and I totally get it. You're bringing up comparisons to Qui-Gon. You're evoking a little bit of that Reva energy where she was able to be stabbed not once but twice and be fine. And on top of that, I totally get wanting Sabine to hold an L. I think it's important, especially given her attitude at the start of the show, that she realizes she has a lot more to learn, right? But I would have literally taken one of her hands. I mean, that's a very, very nostalgic Star Wars thing. It's also like weirdly creepy and horrifying, like because we use our hands so much, the idea of losing a limb is like really terrifying to us at a primal level because it affects our ability to survive and function. And I know it would have been dark, it would have been really crazy, but if she had lost a hand instead, I feel like the narrative online would have been completely different, and I would have been more satisfied as a fan. And I'm just going to say the thing that's on a lot of people's minds. I wonder if Dave had maybe written this differently, and Disney literally interjected and said, yo, why don't we just have her be stabbed? I don't love the idea of limbs being cut off, and also this can help fans not be so mad at Reva, which is like horrible. And if it comes out that that actually happened, I'm going to go super hard on them because that is absurd. But it's also possible that's just what Dave wanted to do. She also stabs her to the side, so it's a little bit more understandable that she survives. But I just got to say, I don't like it. Another thing I really didn't like, and I don't know how many other people are going to bring this up, but Ezra totally friend zones Sabine with that message, and I hate it. Like, this is maybe the thing that I liked the least from the beginning of Ahsoka. When he says that he's always thought of her as a sister, I just cringed so hard because you have this beautiful opportunity. You don't have to go super romantic with it, but allowing that option to be open is kind of good for the fan base, and having her perhaps be motivated by more than like sister brother love, but actually like, yo, no, I actually like love this dude and I want to go get the guy that I love. Like, to smash all of that down and also have Ezra say that when he's saying goodbye in an intimate message, it just feels so weird. And again, I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, is this a Disney thing? Did Dave really want to do this? Because I feel like somebody should have told him, like, nah, bro. And then the last thing that I really didn't like in the first 2 episodes is the saber fighting. And I know some of you guys are going to be like, what are you talking about? The saber fighting was great. And I would say it's good, but it's not great. And this is ironic because Dave even talked about this in some of the interviews, how fans can tell the difference between lackluster saber fighting and really good saber fighting. And it's just kind of strange to remember back to him saying that, because I feel like a lot of the saber fighting in the show is just a little bit off. It's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not to the level I would have expected with the Ahsoka show. This show is really supposed to be about Jedi and one of the best duelists that ever walked the halls of the Jedi Temple in Ahsoka. So it's bizarre to see the action just a little clunky, and the editing around the lightsaber fighting is just a little clunky. Now, it's very possible this is all from early days in the shooting, and perhaps everybody just gets better as time goes on when they were shooting, and maybe in the back half of the season, or even in episodes 3 and 4, we will see much better lightsaber fighting. But I will just say, as a fan, I want to be critical of that lightsaber fighting because I really feel that Star Wars fans deserve the best. And if you've ever watched what Dave Filoni can do in animation with the lightsaber fights, you will know he's probably aiming higher than what we just saw. But okay, like, what's the deal, right? I just kind of crapped on a bunch of different things about the show, so some of you were probably like, Josh, I don't get it. How do you like the show? Why are you so positive on the show? And it's actually pretty simple. I mean, number one, it feels like Star Wars, and I'm actually excited to continue this story. But for a lot of the reasons I talked about at the beginning of this video, mainly the fact that it's so focused and seems to just fly on the wings of Dave's writing, and the fact that Dave is literally pushing the Star Wars mythos forward, those two things combined outweigh all of the problems I have with the show. I am really supportive of this show, and I see the vision that Filoni has, and knowing some of the things from the leaks and the rumors and spoilers, I can just see how this is going to come together in a really compelling way. And so I think a lot of the minor issues I have will be addressed and get better as the show goes on. But most importantly, this feels like for the first time in a long time, we're pushing Star Wars forward, and we're also being given really, really good, high-quality Star Wars stuff. But now I want to briefly talk about my comic Unity, this huge graphic novel that I now have available for pre-order on Kickstarter. This is a book and a universe I've been working on for years. It puts in my favorite stuff, from superhero stuff, even some Star Wars, some Dragon Ball stuff in it. It is a fantastic, super fun, cerebral story that takes place over 5 chapters and over 100 pages long. It's kind of like Judge Dredd meets Watchmen, and currently we are about halfway to our $50,000 crowdfunding goal. So we definitely could use your help. If this sounds interesting, go check out the Kickstarter. I will link it in the description. I will also put it in the pinned comment down in the comment section. Thanks for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts on Ahsoka in the comment section below, and I'll also be doing a lot of streams and videos over the next 6 weeks as we all watch the rest of Ahsoka and talk about it together.